county and start leaving the ticket office area. Thank you.
Alright, I'm going to start off this video here a little differently than we normally do it. We're going to talk about station waiting room hours, but I want to start off in Hicksville first before I get behind the microphone and talk to you. It's around a little after 7 o'clock here at Hicksville train station. And I just want to show you just they're taking forever. They were making good pace during the construction during the summer, but now it's like there's nothing going on, and now it's freezing cold. And they haven't even completed the little on-platform waiting room. Let's see. They haven't even completed it yet. Let's see. I don't know what they're doing. I never see them working here. I never see any work being done here. Since the summer ended, there's no work being done here at all, it seems. And people are just left at, there's no on-platform waiting room, and the waiting room downstairs, well, I guess that's what we're going to talk about next, is all the waiting rooms here with the Long Island Railroad and the lack of proper waiting rooms for people in busy stations, and the discrimination going on to favor the Babylon branch. By the way, every single Babylon branch station gets an on-platform waiting room so they can be out of the elements, but no, we don't get that here in Hicksville, even though it's way busier. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk about the waiting rooms. Okay, so we are going to be talking about waiting room hours here, and the Long Island Railroad Hicksville station used to be open very late, and then they wound up cutting back the hours. It used to be open much later, and they wound up cutting back the hours to 8:30, which I find is ridiculous. You know, it's bad enough Hicksville doesn't have an escalator for like so long. It's bad enough that there's no on-platform waiting room on the north platform, but the waiting rooms are now, on the downstairs, are only open till 8:30. Now, that wouldn't be an issue if that's what most Long Island Railroad waiting rooms were open till. But as we're going to see, there's a lot of favoritism going on toward our wonderful South Shore areas. So, Hicksville, obviously this may have been done because of these problems here that Hicksville has. People just hanging out in the waiting room. These aren't people that are taking the train. Some of them are illegal. Some of them are homeless, just hanging out in there all the time. But that's what the MTA police is for. And the MTA police never does anything about it. These guys are here every day, and nothing is ever done. You know, I have a lot of sympathy for the homeless and all the things, but you know, you can't just hang out in the train station all the time, especially if you're causing problems. Most of these guys are drunk. Most of them have drug problems. That's probably why they're homeless. And, you know, they should be in jail. At least they're in jail. They'll get 3 square meals a day and a roof over their head instead of menacing the public like this. You know, but that shouldn't be the excuse that the waiting room closes at 8:30, because there's a problem there. If there's a problem there, then MTA PD needs to deal with that problem, all right, instead of not dealing with it, all right? So we're going to look at some of the other waiting room things here. Other waiting room hours. All right, so there's Hicksville. You can see Hicksville. Now, like I said, wouldn't be so irritating, but let's look at Rockville Center. Oh, well, Rockville Center is open till 10 p.m. Oh, isn't that interesting? I don't know if you can read that. It says 5:30 a.m. till 10 p.m. Till 10 p.m. So they're open till 10. Interesting. So they're open an hour and a half later than Hicksville, despite Hicksville being a way busier station. Despite that, and despite the fact that Rockville Center has an on-platform waiting room and all that stuff, no. It's Rockville Center, man. They got to get what they want, you know. It's the state power, you know. Even though Dean Skelos is out of office, Rockville Center, whatever Rockville Center wants, Rockville Center gets, because they're politically connected, because they're connected with the Wall Street. I don't know. It's politics, and again, this is a perfect example of why politics should have nothing to do with public transportation. All right? So let's go ahead now and look at my station, Mineola. We're even open later than Hicksville. All right? Yeah, we are even open later. Whoops. I apologize for that. I wanted to make it a little bigger. Let's see if we can make it bigger. But you should be able to see it. Even our station is open later, but we do close early on weekends till 2 p.m., which I find pretty outrageous because, again, Rockville Center is open till 8, and we're probably busier than Rockville Center, and yet our waiting room closes early. And once again, we don't have sheltered, well, actually there is on the eastbound side. There is another little little thing there on the eastbound side where you can wait, but that's not going to do you any good if you need to go west. Well, I guess you'd have to wait there and then, but it's a very small thing, you know. So you can see the favoritism going on. So next we're going to go to the MTA's webpage and look at some of the waiting room hours from the webpage and show you, again, the favoritism toward the Babylon branch in certain stations. But before we get there, I want to read this article back when the waiting rooms were expanded at 41 Long Island Railroad stations. And a lot of this was rolled back. All right? And Helena Williams. This is why I miss Helena Williams. I think she did a much better job for the customers. Patrick Nowakowski doesn't give a shit about customers, except those customers on the Babylon branch. So I'm going to read you this article. It doesn't have a date on this, but this was quite a few years ago this was done. I think about 3 or 4 years ago. Extended hours resulted from collaborative effort between the railroad and the Long Island Railroad Commuters Council. The MTA Long Island Railroad was joined by the Long Island Railroad Commuters Council in announcing a pilot program to expand the hours of some of the railroad station waiting rooms. The LIRR is extending the waiting room hours at 41 stations as part of its ongoing effort to improve customer service and in response to concerns raised by the Long Island Railroad Commuter Council, which pressed for later afternoon and evening access to station facilities on behalf of customers. The 41 stations will have their waiting room hours extended until 10 p.m. in the evening on weekdays. Long Island Railroad station waiting rooms typically open between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. on weekdays. Prior to the pilot, most station waiting rooms closed by mid-afternoon. Long Island Railroad President Helena Williams said, "By expanding the waiting room hours in this pilot program, we are looking to provide an added level of customer service. We realize that our customers are traveling our system at all hours of day. By making the waiting rooms available for the greater periods, customers have the convenience of waiting for trains out of the elements. We've been working closely with the Long Island Railroad Commuter Council on this issue and appreciate their input." Long Island Railroad Commuter Council Chairman Mark Epstein said, "We are pleased that the railroad has responded to the needs of its riders, which are increasingly traveling the system in the afternoon and evening hours and relying on connecting services to reach their destinations. This is a significant step to provide all riders with a safe, clean, and convenient place to await the next leg of their trips." Earlier this year in our pilot program, the Long Island Railroad extended waiting room hours until 10 p.m. on weekdays at 20 stations, and they included Belrose, Bethpage, Brentwood, Douglaston, Farmingdale, Great Neck, Kings Park, Little Neck, Lynbrook, Merrick, Mineola, Oakdale, Oceanside, Patchogue, Roslyn, Sayville, Stony Brook, Valley Stream, Wantaw, and Woodmere. The Long Island Railroad closely monitored conditions at those 20 stations and determined that the extended wait hours did not result in additional significant cleaning or vandalism issues, allowing the pilot to be expanded. The Long Island Railroad is now expanding this pilot program to include an additional 21 stations, bringing the total number of stations to 41. The additional stations include Baldwin, Broadway, Cedarhurst, Central Islip, East Hampton, Flora Park, Forest Hills, Greeton Lawn, Island Park, Kew Gardens, Lindenhurst, Northport, Queens Village, Rockville Center, Ronkonkoma, Rosedale, Seacliff, Seaford, Smithtown, St. James, and Westbury. The Long Island Railroad will carefully monitor and assess the impact of extending the waiting room hours as the pilot program enters its second phase, and may modify or end the program at particular stations if conditions warrant. All station waiting rooms involved in the pilot program, with the exception of Ronkonkoma, have automated locks to open and close the waiting room doors. As is practiced at waiting rooms with automated locks, approximately 5 minutes prior to the scheduled closing time, an automated announcement is made in the waiting room to alert occupants that the doors will be locking to allow sufficient time to exit. Detectives within the waiting rooms alert the Long Island Railroad Security Department if someone remains in the waiting room once the doors are locked. So, as you can see, this was a great idea, but unfortunately a lot of this has been scaled back since you know who came in. Yeah, we all know this guy, Patrick Nowakowski. Ever since this guy took over the Long Island Railroad, it's been going downhill. The customer service has been going downhill. They don't even keep like they used to when we have frigid weather. Usually they keep the waiting rooms opened around the clock, but they haven't been doing that recently. I don't know if they're going to do that with this particular cold wave, but I bet not, because Patrick Nowakowski doesn't give a shit about the riders. He doesn't give a shit about anyone but his favorite people on the Babylon branch. All right? And this guy obviously is a lot like Governor Cuomo. Pompous, arrogant, and only really looking out for certain groups of people. You know, not being fair is what I'm trying to say here. You know, these kind of people, just like our lovely president, they're all the same kind of just arrogant. Don't get me started. I'm getting started already. But anyway, we're going to look at some of the waiting room hours on the website, and I'm pretty sure that they've rolled them back at Baldwin. Baldwin closes early now because it's Baldwin. You know, it's not Lily White, so they don't get to have a waiting room open until 10 o'clock, I guess. Well, we're going to look at the waiting rooms now. So we are going to look at the waiting room hours from the MTA's own website. All right. Now, I'm not going to cover every single train station because the video would be way too long, and I don't want this to be a really long video. But we're going to start with Babylon. Remember I said that the waiting room at Hicksville closes at 8:30. All right. Yet Babylon, their waiting room is open till, all right, we got to scroll this down a little bit. Their waiting room is open till 9 o'clock, so they're open a half an hour later. I'm sorry, yeah, we got to go back down a little more. That was ticket office. Yeah, right here, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So their waiting room is open until 9 p.m., a half an hour later than Hicksville, all right? And it's open to 9 p.m. every single day. So even on the weekends, it's open till 9. Yeah, Mineola closes at 2. We don't get that, again, because we're not Babylon, you know? And here's the thing about it, all right? They have a waiting room downstairs, but you see this little thing up here? They have a waiting room on the platform you can wait to be out of the elements. So they have it all. That's why I call it the boutique branch, because they get everything, man. It's like the luxury Long Island Railroad branch, all right? So that's the way I look at it anyway, because compared to the rest of the railroad, everything else, the rest of the railroad looks like shit compared to the Babylon branch, all right? I'm being honest, all right? Doesn't mean I want to be on the Babylon branch because, you know, for my own purposes, you know, it doesn't really take me where I like to go, where I need to go, but what I'm saying is the Babylon branch definitely gets preferential treatment, all right? So now we're going to look at Huntington. I'm looking at a lot of these terminal stations, all right? Huntington, all right? Now, Huntington, the Huntington branch, by far, this is the stepchild. Of the major Long Island Railroad branches, Huntington is the stepchild. And Huntington is a very wealthy area, which goes to show you, like I said, it's not purely about the income of the area. It's about a certain group, a certain connection, because Huntington is a different kind of rich people. You know, more doctors and educated people. They're not so much into the finance sector. So it's the Wall Street people on the South Shore that are able to have great influence over the state government and get what they want with the trains. Huntington, on the other hand, and they really have it bad. All right, Huntington, their waiting room closes at 7:40 p.m., 7:45 p.m., 7:45 p.m. And there's no, once that waiting room closes, there's nowhere warm to wait, except when you want to wait in an overpass. You freeze your ass off. All right, nowhere warm to wait. All right. So that's their waiting room hours. All right, which I find ridiculous because Huntington actually has just as many, if not more, riders than Babylon. Yet their waiting room closes earlier. Why? Why? All right, let's go ahead and look at Port Washington. All right, Port Washington, another. This again a rich area, but again, people say, oh, the Port Washington branch is the best. Yeah, it is the fastest, I guess. You don't have to contend with Jamaica, but the problem is that you don't get that preferential treatment. All right, and perfect example of this. All right, the waiting room hours. All right, they're open till 8:45. I guess that's reasonable. But why not 10 o'clock? Why not 10 o'clock? I think they were open till 10, but the waiting room hours rolled back. All right, and just to show you Hicksville, show you here, yeah, 8:30 here. All right, this is Hicksville, 8:30. I find that's ridiculous. Hicksville should be open. Hicksville should be open till at least 10 o'clock, if not later. Why are smaller stations open later than Hicksville? That makes no sense. It's bad enough Hicksville does not have the on-platform waiting rooms, as you saw in the early part of this video, were demolished. and you know, they redid the whole thing, but they never finished the job. And every time I'm there, and I'm in at this station almost every day, and I don't see any work being done. Why is there no work being done here? It's a busy station. No escalator, no on-platform waiting room. I mean, it's like the busy station on Long Island. And yet, Rockville Center is open later. What's up with that? Rockville Center doesn't have half the amount of passengers Hicksville has. Yet Rockville Center gets treated better. What is going on? All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, talking about rolling back waiting. All right, we're going to look at Long Beach. The Long Beach branch, right, which is the South Shore, but again, it's not the Babylon branch, so its waiting room is, let's see, it's open till 8 o'clock. I guess that's reasonable enough. It's reasonable enough. But again, it really should be open till 10. They all should be open till 10, and they were. They were in that article. A lot of waiting room hours were extended, but rolled back under head asshole Patrick Nowakowski, who once again, Mr. Patrick Nowakowski, I think you need to resign. But I know you're not going anywhere because your buddy Cuomo is going to make sure you're not going to go anywhere. Well, I'll make sure your buddy Cuomo loses in the next election, all right? Or hopefully your buddy Cuomo will wind up going to jail when Ed Mangano squeals on him when his trial starts next year. All right, let's take a look at, I think we have to look at one more here. Baldwin, yeah, Baldwin, see, Baldwin was rolled back. Waiting room hours at Baldwin were rolled back till 2 o'clock. Man, they were really screwed. The same waiting room hours as Freeport now. So, yeah, they're screwed. Oh, well, because it's, there's problems in the area. We can't have that. Well, what are the MTA police for then? What are the MTA police for? Aren't they supposed to, you know, I mean, why don't they have closed-circuit cameras in these waiting rooms? And if they're monitored, and if the police see something that's not right, they can send somebody over there and clean the problem up. No, that would make too much sense for the Long Island Railroad to think about. So, yeah, that is my little rant on waiting room hours. And you may wonder why I do these rants and why I continue to talk about these transportation equities, because somebody has to. You know, we all pay the same fares. Merrick is in the same zone as Hicksville. Yet, here we are at Merrick, and they have a nice sheltered waiting room right on the platform, out of the elements. And look at the vents up there. They even have heat, all right? They're out of the elements. They're dry, but because of, you know, various things, you know, the railroad views that these people here are significantly more important than other people on the Long Island Railroad because of their said connections, because they're, I don't know what it is. There's something about this particular group of other upper middle class bourgeois people that has a huge say in the way the Long Island Railroad is run, and a huge amount of weight or pull is to getting what they want. Meanwhile, other riders who are paying the same amount and paying the same fares are getting less service, inferior facilities, and it's wrong. It really is wrong what's going on. I also want to briefly go over the extra trains that will be running on Friday, and of course, look at all these trains the Babylon branch is getting. I mean, they're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trains they're getting. 6 extra trains. And they got, of course, most of them are flyers. They don't even stop at Jamaica. You know, most of them are flyers. Meanwhile, the Ronkonkoma branch is only getting 2 extra trains. And Huntington's only getting 2 extra trains, and they have one going to Hicksville. So, and then only 1 extra train on the Port Washington branch, and 1 extra train on the Far Rockaway branch. So why is I mean, look at this. I mean, can it be any more evident what is going on here? Can it be any more evident to the favoritism that's going on toward the Babylon branch? Can it be any more evident? Doesn't this raise well, yeah, I mean, it can definitely make you feel like you're in a rage sometime over this, but doesn't this raise a red flag to anyone? Anyone? I think it raises a major red flag. So, in conclusion, as we look at this beautiful piney scene here, we have to talk about these things because there's some real inequality going on in public transportation. It's bad enough that we have to deal with Nice Bus and their complete dysfunction, at Nice Bus, but we also have to deal with the Long Island Railroad's favoritism toward certain groups of people. All right? Everybody pays the same fares in the zones. Why do certain stations in certain zones get treated better? And for goodness sake, I mean, this is not rocket science here with the waiting rooms. All right? You know, they don't open Patrick. It's obvious too that Patrick Nowakowski has been terrible for Long Island Railroad commuters. Terrible, terrible. And Cuomo will go on there and tout, well, we are going to start the third track project on the main line. Yes, it's needed. Yes, it's something I agree with Cuomo on. But once it's done, are we still going to be getting treated like this? Are we still going to be treated like crap? They haven't showed us any schedules of what the service is going to be like when the third track is put in. They haven't showed us the waiting room hours. They haven't showed us any of that. All right? While I support the third track, I'm just bringing that up. All right? Before Cuomo pats himself on the back for this, it's not even started yet. I mean, look at how long it's taken them to finish just the Hicksville station. This is going to take many years. It's funny, you know, many years ago they built the subway. The IRT subway was built in like 5 years. And now it takes forever to build anything. Obviously something is wrong. Something is majorly wrong. Governor Cuomo and Patrick Nowakowski have been a disaster. All right? And I think the appointment of Patrick Nowakowski has been a huge mistake, once again. But I'm hopeful that justice will prevail and we will get rid of these corrupt politicians, starting with Ed Mangano, and that path leads right to Albany and Governor Cuomo's office. And I really think that Cuomo will wind up being indicted on something. All right? He's going to try to run for president. We know that. But I really think he's going to be indicted on something, and hopefully soon. He is up for election next year. You know, between that and then him vetoing the Pine Barrens expansion bill, I mean, the guy couldn't do more to piss me off. And while, yeah, I'm not crazy about Governor Christie in New Jersey, and we've called him some names, Governor Christie, what you see is what you get with him. Cuomo is sneaky. He is a sneaky guy. All right? And this whole thing with the railroad, this inequality, and you know, we have cold weather coming up. They used to have the waiting rooms open around the clock. They're not going to have that. People are going to freeze at the off hours. They're going to freeze. And except for the Babylon Branch people, they'll get to be warm while the rest of us freeze. You know. And again, it's not rocket science. It's not rocket science, Mr. Cuomo. Mr. Nowakowski, it's not rocket science with the waiting rooms. I'm going to tell you how to do it again. You put in cameras in the waiting rooms, closed-circuit cameras that are monitored, all right? And they even have software that can do the monitoring for you. And if somebody's hanging out in that waiting room longer than they should be, the police will get sent over and check it out. It's not rocket science. We've had the technology for this for years. But the Long Island Railroad is too dumb to see that. Instead, they don't give a shit about their customers. Well, except for the customers on the Babylon Branch, of course. So, that's been it for this video. Sorry, it's a little negative. But, you know, the railroad has to be called out on this. You know, I wanted to put this video together for a little while, but I just got around to it now. And hopefully we'll have a New Year's Walk and Talk maybe video coming up. Alright, so that's been this video on the Long Island Railroad's waiting room hours and justice, unequal treatment of riders, and favoritism toward those who have connections in the finance and Wall Street industry. Thank you for watching.